And now, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome to the stage our keynote speaker for this afternoon. Quite a remarkable lady. She is the founder and owner of Mowgli Street Food in Bowl Street. Please put your hands together for Nisha Katona.
For a wonderful introduction, and I can't thank the women's organisation and Downtown in Business enough for even countenancing having me as what you might call a keynote speaker. I have been in business for 2 years. 2 years ago, I didn't know what a P&L was. I knew what one looked like. I didn't know which way up it worked, really, and that's what you're dealing with. And then I was told that I was speaking to 500 members of the business community, pillars of the business community, and any pride I had turned to abject terror. And that's actually how I'm feeling now. But I guess that there were 2 types of people in the audience. There were those of you that have trodden this route before me and know it 10 times better than I do. And you can hear my words and you can just look upon them with fond reminiscence of how naive you can be at the beginning. But there are many of you, I think, that are in that circle of security as I was, and you're thinking of whether to step out. You're thinking of whether to step into things like risk and sacrifice and debt and this word ambition. And my words will tell you just a little bit of what it is to be, I think, a woman in business. If you don't know about Mowgli Street Food, many of you won't. It's very kind of the presumption on the part of Maggie, but it's a small eatery on Bow Street. It's an Indian food concept that I came up with 18 months ago. 70-cover restaurant. Apart from a little bit of help from the bank at that stage, I completely self-funded that, so I borrowed from my mum. All my inheritance, all my savings, my house was on the line. My house still is on the line. Everything Mowgli makes goes back into Mowgli. And we, a year on, built our 200-seater flagship restaurant in the Corn Exchange in Manchester. We are about to build Leeds. We estimate that in August of this year our turnover will be 5 million and we will have created, I think, 140 jobs. The ambition is to be international. But my background is not business, it's the antithesis of business. My mother's here today. They came over, my parents, about 50 years ago, as Indian immigrants, GPs into Skelmersdale. I don't know how many of you know Skelmersdale. I'm very fond of Skelmersdale. Yeah. I was born and brought up in Ormskirk. And it was a tough, so 1971 I was born, and it's a tough place to grow up. My earliest memories, and it will be the same for many of the second-generation immigrants that are in the audience today, was of my earliest memories of being firebombed, of being bricked as you sit in your nursery, as you got on the school bus, you'd be spat at. That was a daily occurrence. That was the norm. My father would buy cars and they would be, there'd be swastikas and pack and go home every morning. And I don't say that as a sob story. I say it because it will give you some insight as to why so many of the second-generation immigrants, entrepreneurs that you have this determination and resilience and this thick skin. That is the crucible in which we have been forged. And alongside that is this weird thing that Asian professional parents do. One is that they have nothing but disdain for business, because they don't understand it and because it's fragile and unstable. You are raised as second generations to be doctors, to be lawyers, to be accountants. I mean, you've seen it on the Kumars at number 42, and that's what it's like. And the reason is because that's safe, and I get that. It's safe, and there is a mantra in every immigrant household, which is you have got to work 10 times harder than the next person to get the same job. And so you grow up with this work ethic, and I was a good girl, and I became a barrister. But even that was not without its challenges. So in 1994, I did something called a mini pupillage. Pupillage is a traineeship for barristers. As a mini pupil, it was my first time in a set of chambers, these hallowed grounds. And I had fallen in love with that job within 10 minutes. My God, the inspiration, it was incredible. And at the end of the day, I got to my pupil master's desk, as they were called. And there was a note from the head of chambers, and the head of chambers had written to say, your pupil is Asian and female, and so she has no place at the bar. You need to disabuse her of this ambition. And it was meant in the friendliest way. The guy went on to be a judge. He went on to be a good friend, and it was just his idea of good advice at that time. But I did persevere. I persevered because I was more afraid of my mum than I was of her. But that's kind of shame. And in those days, there were some barristers here now, I can see them. We were a handful, weren't we? There was just a handful. I don't think we even had our own robing room in those days, so you'd be dressing, you know, in the men's toilets or whatever. In those days, in King's Inn, I remember they didn't have facilities for feminine hygiene because the bar was not populated with female. They had balconies in the library, and you could see up and see if people's skirts. They weren't equipped for women at the bar. But what's wonderful about law and what's wonderful about medicine is that 20 years on, the majority, and I've been about 20 years, the majority of inputs now is female. The majority of intake in medicine is now female. And I slipped across the business about 18 months ago. And once again, and I know this is a different demographic, but once again, I go to meeting after meeting where I am the only female in the room. The statistics are shocking. The percentage of business owners that are female is still in the early 20s, and it needs to change. But I'm beginning to understand why that statistic is so bad. The pressures of being a female in business, a woman in business, are unique. And there is the trite one that everyone trots out about family pressures, about the guilt of abandoning your family. Gosh, the number of people that came to me, family and friends, well-meaning, before I started the Mowgli journey, to say, listen, it's all very well you living your dream, but you are going to destroy your children. And I wonder how many men at the threshold of an amazing career opportunity, a career that you are doing for your children, have to grapple with that sentiment. And many of the women in this audience will grapple with it all day, every day. It is white noise, background noise for us, that guilt, and we have to live with it, and we have to work through it. But it doesn't mean we don't do it. Hospitality is a tricky one. Hospitality is, business organisations get up and have to mention their family. How many? It's fascinating. And who's got that right? One thinks. But hospitality is tricky as well. The hours are antisocial and they're long. And does that mean as women we don't take those businesses and change them from the inside? I think it doesn't. I think we do. We go into these areas that are difficult, that militate against women, and we change them. The other thing I found really hard, I spoke to Chris, who's one of the organisers, just to tell him how terrified I was about this speech. He said, I've been a barrister for 20 years. As a barrister, you talk about other people's cases. You talk about you never ever refer to yourself. You are just an anodyne vehicle. Here, I'm expected to show you my raw strategies and my raw ambitions. And you know what's really interesting is on the lips of a woman, I find, in England, ambition is something that is distasteful. It's unfeminine, and it is raw, and it is construed as hubris and egocentricity. On the lips of a man, it is stirring, it is motivational, and it is inspiring. And we as women have to be brave enough to just speak about our ambitions. I'm talking about Mowgli, and I'm saying I want her to be national, I want her to be international, I want to be in Bern, I want to be in London by the end of the year, and I want to take the nation in the next 2 years. It takes a lot for me to say that, and for me to think that you might not hate me for saying that. Maggie, very often, the people that would challenge me most, and I put that very democratically, the people that would pull me down the most are other women. And we can smash through all the glass ceilings we want, but until we support each other and stop doing that, it means nothing. As Madeleine Albright says, there is a very special place in hell for women who don't support each other. Now, as women, within the four corners of womanhood, within the four corners of motherhood, we talk about the statistic, I get £1.6 billion. We have a duty. We have a duty to tell our daughters and our nieces and our sons and our nephews But words like ambition, like risk, like sacrifice, these are not swear words. These are things that we need to be able to grapple with and grasp. Otherwise, there is that deficit, and we are liable for that because of our own shame. Those are fearful concepts for me. I never wanted to jump ship. I love being a barrister. For me, it was the best job in the world. I love this new life, but God, that was astonishing. What has also been going on in my life all the time is that I have been an avid foodie. Food is my passion. I wrote my first cookbook last year. We just got a 2-book deal from Penguin for this year. I've just filmed for Food Network, and I'm filming for ITV in about 3 weeks, all to do with food. That's my passion. My passion is to articulate, I've got to drink some water, the way that Indian food is seen by the Brits. When you look at what's happened to Indian food on the high street, to me it's a travesty. My God, those dishes are unrecognisable to most Indians. So what we did when we came over in the 1800s was we looked at our white audience and we thought, right, you like lumps of meat in what you call a thick gravy. So we will make that for you and call it balti, which is bucket, actually. We will call it pasanda, which means chicken I like. And chicken tikka masala was invented in Glasgow. We are taking the piss with you, frankly. What we eat, honestly, is lots of us are vegan. Oh God, I know that's a swear word, but what Indians can do with a geriatric cabbage is virtuosic. And we haven't, because, and it's very sweet. We want to give you what you want. You want meat and you want a thick sauce. And that's what Mowgli was about. What I wanted to do was to build a concept where you could walk in, and this is what it feels like to go into an Indian friend's house at 10 o'clock at night when the curtains are drawn and we are taking the detritus out of the fridge. This is how we eat in Mowgli. It was never meant to be a burnished, flocked dining experience. So there it was, suddenly I had a product. But it's not good enough just to have a product. I don't believe that the world owes us a living just because we have a cracking idea. I needed to see whether there was a market for it, and I wasn't brave enough just to pack the bar in and launch into my first restaurant. So what I did is, after court, day after day in my suit, I've done stand in commercial kitchens. My friend owns Bacaro and Salt House. He was so good to let me just literally stand in the corner all night, see what people are ordering, what do women order, what do men order, how much do they spend, what kind of kit do I need to make a restaurant. I would footfall count every lunchtime between cases and see, the blokes are at Greg's, the women are at Philpott's, how much tikka masala is selling, how much vegetarian soup is selling. And what I realised very quickly is that the Indian food market is an open goal for the right concept. And then I set about thinking about how you build that right concept. And there are 3 challenges to that. Many of you will have ideas like this. Number 1 is finance. Number 2 is property. And number 3 is building a model that is replicable. When I say replicable, I mean that it can work in Runcorn, Regent Street, that you can just replicate it quickly and utterly consistently. So if you come in and order a house chicken curry in Liverpool, it's exactly the same as Glasgow. Finance is a tricky one, number 1. The first time round, we were lent enough by the bank for, I think, an oven and a grill. Other than that, I understand the climate of lending in this country is very different to America. In America, they don't see a failed business as a failure, they see it as an experience. And so you will be lent to the next time. Here we're much more cautious. And so the truth is, you need an nest egg. I had a nest egg. When I say I had a nest egg, I really scrimped. And everything that I had, every saving, of course, went to build that Mowgli. Property was a bit of a sore point. I would have given my right arm to be a Liverpool woman. I had dedicated my life to the city. I'd had impeccable accounts of 20 years of being a barrister. Of course, I couldn't afford an actual building with bricks and a window because the rents in our city centre are so prohibitive that independents are precluded just by that very fact. I wanted a little kiosk, that would have done me. And I went head to head with a big donut firm, and I matched them on rent, and they didn't go with me, and I'm sad about that. And I'm sad because our cities need to be less homogenised. We need to cut a bit of slack for independence, our loyal, homebred independence. I'm not just saying throw money at, whichever peddler comes your way on a punt, but if we carry on the way we're going, Leeds will become Sheffield, will become Nottingham, and we will have these homogenised concrete temples to Claire's accessories and a number of massive chains. And so that does sadden me. Now we're playing with the big boys. But for those of you that are starting off, that is one of your big issues, is where you will go. And so what we do as independents is we go to this District 13, that is Bow Street. And there we eat our weird food, and we make our organic fit-outs. And we flew, thank heavens, we flew. The part of the business that I'm loving the most, I remember at the threshold of Mowgli, many people said, you will hate the staff, it will do your head in. And what I love the most has been my staff. What we want to do, and this is what I believe from Mowgli, is that, and for every replicable, rollable business, is you need to build a business that people want to come and work in, and they want to stay. We have, in terms of people that leave to go on to other hospitality jobs, we have 0 turnover in 2 years. We make our KPs chefs, we keep servers so that they can go on to be GMs. I want to build this business, I want to make it national so that I can give them somewhere to go. It has been the most satisfying part of this job. Psychology Today, I've got 2 minutes. Psychology Today did a really interesting survey. They said the things that people hate most in their bosses, number 1, dishonesty, and number 2, inauthenticity. The best bosses are the ones that are honest and able to communicate. And women in the room, those are our absolute attributes. We have that in bucket loads. So for those of you that are thinking of stepping outside, many of you will look upon what I've said and think, she's naive and misguided. But for those of you that are thinking of stepping out of that bubble of security and wondering what it's like, do you have to compromise yourself? Do you have to sell your soul? What I can tell you about my very short journey is that not at all. I have been able to build this business on what I consider to be pillars of integrity. At the heart of what we do, we have charitable giving, we are nurturing, we are compassionate, strong, and a stimulating business. I would urge you to step out of that bubble. There are many before me that have done it better than me, but I'm trying to follow their route, and we can build these businesses that transform industries, and we can lead these corporations that really do change lives. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation for Nisha Katona.